some of them on claim. They want them to potentially, I don't know, potentially transfer.
It is Thursday, January 2nd, 2025. I'm Candace Kelly sitting in for Roland. Here's what's coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered here live on the Black Star Network. We'll have the latest on Louisiana's Bourbon Street terrorist attack that left 15 people dead and over 30 injured. I'll speak with a New Orleans City councilman about the investigation and the safety measures the city is taking for upcoming events like Mardi Gras and Jazz Fest. The private diversity grant program is underway to reduce barriers to entry for underrepresented entrepreneurs. We'll talk to one of the attorneys, ensuring folks get the help that they need. And 6 men are seeking presidential pardons to overturn their wrongful convictions in a 1984 murder case. One of the wrongfully convicted will be here to share his story. And in our Fit, Live, Win segment, I'll speak with a doctor who will explain why so many women are requesting long-acting reversible contraceptives. It's time to bring the funk on the Roland Martin Network, streaming live here. Let's go.
He's got whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funk, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Bourbon Street has reopened, and the Sugar Bowl is underway in New Orleans a day after 15 people were killed and 30 injured in the French Quarter terror attack. FBI officials say they believe Shamsuddin Jabbar acted alone when he barreled a pickup truck down the sidewalk of Bourbon Street, killing 17 people and injuring dozens before he died in a shootout with New Orleans police. To give us the latest, New Orleans City Councilman Eugene Green, who represents District D, he joins us here now. Thank you so much for being with us, Councilman.
I'm pleased to be on Roland Martin Unfiltered, and I appreciate your hosting me on this evening to share information with the public.
Absolutely. And why don't we start off with the latest? What is the latest information that you have? We certainly know a lot about the man who did this or allegedly did this, as we are looking at DNA, I understand. But tell me, what is the latest that you have?
Well, the latest that we have is that the FBI has said that he acted alone. I think that one of the challenges that's going to exist for a long time is that no matter what, we're going to still ask ourselves, why? Why would you do something like this? When you attack Bourbon Street at 3:15 in the morning, you're attacking young people who are just enjoying themselves. You're taking on basically humankind, people who want to have a good time. Drove all the way from Houston to come and stay in a short-term rental to make bombs that he placed in a couple of spots. It's just going to always be a challenge to get to the bottom of it. But I will say this, my condolences to the persons who lost family members and to those who are injured. I certainly hope for their speedy recovery. I do want to say that we've had a great response from our community and the nation, a great outpouring of support and grief from the nation, a great response in terms of our local community sharing information with our law enforcement officials, sharing blood, for example. There was lines for the blood bank today. There's just a lot going on in the city. The terrorists did not succeed in doing anything. The game is happening right now. Bourbon Street opened today at noon, again, to, not so long after it was closed because of this tragedy. I mean, it's just a tragedy all around, but the city is responding. The city has recovered before from Hurricane Katrina, hit hard during the pandemic. We host a variety of events. You asked about security. We just hosted a massive Taylor Swift 3-day concert series. We host the Jazz Fest. We host Super Bowl often. This is our 11th Super Bowl that's taking place in February. Of course, there's the Mardi Gras. But then there's the Bayou Classic, the Essence Festival, and other events, Final Fours. So we as a city know how to host major events. We're going to continue to do what we can to keep our visitors and our residents safe at those events. But once again, on this day, my heart is heavy because people have lost family members. And to those who are watching, who are members of families where you've been victimized, I'm so sorry for your loss and my condolences. But we're moving in the right direction as a city.
Yeah, and we do have names of some of the victims who have been positively identified. I want to make sure that we acknowledge these people. I know that certainly you are well adept at having big events with thousands of people. Well, what can you tell people about maybe perhaps some extra precautions that you're taking in light of this, and in light of the fact that you are aware of the safety issues, but this happened?
It's important to recognize that there is law enforcement in larger numbers in the city right now. It's unfortunate we didn't contemplate that someone would run past and ride on the sidewalk with the purpose of trying to kill people. That's all that was. Very honestly, they won't be able to do it now because the sidewalks will be blocked. But it's important to recognize that the one street, Bourbon Street, is one of many streets in the French Quarter, and our city is 300 years old. We haven't had this type of attack other than somebody who was, inebriated, who was drunk at the time and had this kind of event. The bottom line is that we've learned a lot from this, and we're taking precautions to make sure that what we can do, especially on Bourbon Street and in our higher profile areas, is keep our residents and visitors safe. It's just important to recognize that and I know we all recognize who are on this line, when someone is hell bent on killing other human beings and doesn't care about their own life, comes all the way to a city for the purposes of basically getting killed, it's very hard to determine what that person's going to do. This particular person chose to go down Bourbon Street, but Royal Street is one block over. Could have gone down Royal Street, and there were no barricades there. So you just don't know. And at the end of the day, we're trying to get as many answers as we can. But I think our citizens are resting a little bit easier knowing that this person acted alone, that there's not a group of co-conspirators in the city causing havoc. It's just unfortunate to think what happened on yesterday.
And as you mentioned, he acted alone. This is not connected with any other alleged terror attacks that happened recently, and that's something that I'm sure you want to make clear.
Absolutely. We want to make it clear that we're having a game right now. For example, Bourbon Street is open, and there are other events going on in the city. We don't have co-conspirators going throughout the city, creating pipe bombs and putting them in special places. We are eternally vigilant. We are more vigilant now, but I know that the citizens of our city, and also those who have watched the city or watched the city from throughout the country, are more comfortable knowing that, unfortunately, as terrible as it was a lone wolf and someone who acted on his own. And at the end of the day, there's no vast conspiracy of spread throughout the city.
And certainly, I'm sure you want to remind people that when they are part of big crowds, they have a job to do too. If they see anything that is suspicious, they're part of the equation too, making sure that something like this doesn't happen again.
If you see something, say something. Now, we've had residents now after the fact say, I saw this. Visitors say, I saw this. If you see something that you think is suspicious, at the end of the day, call it in. That's the only way that we're going to get some attention to it. Yes, we have massive events. We're going to have this Sugar Bowl. We're going to have this Sugar Bowl as tonight, the Mardi Gras Festival, and the Super Bowl going to bring in hundreds of thousands of people. It's certainly possible that there'll be bad actors. If you see something, let us know in the interest of protecting the public.
What is the latest information or more information that the city has to uncover about this that's being worked on right now?
Very honestly, the investigation continues because there was a short-term rental which caught on fire where there were bomb-making materials there. There were a couple of IEDs, improvised explosive devices, in different places in the city. So there's still an ongoing effort to determine what this perpetrator may have done in terms of putting devices in the city that were harmful to other people. But we have done a thorough sweep of the French Quarter. They're not going to be there. And every day, I guess every few minutes, we get a little bit more information about the perpetrator of these events. It's a very, very sad story how someone could kill other people like this. On his drive from Houston to New Orleans, he was talking about killing his family. We're learning now that he had financial difficulties, but he was a veteran of 8 years of the military. He was respected by his fellow members of the military. This is a challenge to determine what happened here, but we're not leaving any stone unturned. We're making sure that our citizens and our visitors are going to be helped. And we're also going out of our way to make sure that those who are that they're protected, but we're also going out of our way to make sure that assistance is available to the families of victims, because this is a very, horrific incident, and we sympathize with you. There are resources available through the City of New Orleans, the Orleans Parish Sheriff's Office, the New Orleans Police Department, and the District Attorney's Office. You can contact one of those offices if you're a victim of this crime, if you have a family member who suffered because of it. We want to assist.
All right, Councilman, I want to thank you so much for being with us today. Giving us the latest. New Orleans City Councilman Eugene Green, thank you for all the information and for being on the case. Good to see you.
And I do want to thank Roland Martin again, Unfiltered. I can't say this enough. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to share with the nation what is going on in New Orleans and giving me a chance to say thank you to the nation for the support that you've shown to our city in this time of challenge. We're going to rebuild stronger. We're going to continue to be the great city that we've been, but it really helps when we have entities such as Roland Martin Unfiltered who are giving us an opportunity to let the public know that we're still strong as a city and we welcome you to our city.
All right, and we thank you for that. We know New Orleans will remain strong as it always has been. Thank you again.
Yeah, you're welcome.
All right, I want to bring in my panel right now. Today, I'm joined by Dr. Greg Carr with the Department of Afro-American Studies at Howard University out of D.C. Robert Patillo, host of People, Passion, Politics News and Talk 1380 WAOK out of Atlanta, Georgia. And Cameron C. Trimble, CEO of Hip Hop Politics Media and former White House senior advisor. Good to see all of you today. I think that this is all really, Dr. Carr, just a precaution that we all have to take when we look at this man. I'm sure you've seen the video of him talking, looking normal. And that's what we have to keep in mind when we think about people who do these kinds of acts. There's not a look. There's not a way that they are. This was someone that was serving in the military. He was a realtor, seemed perfectly normal as we might know it.
Yeah, of course, Candace, and it's good to see you. Happy New Year, and to everyone. And with all due respect to Councilman Green, if I would have asked him, I probably would have asked him, what makes you so sure that this man did not act alone? Of course, the idea that we would take anything that federal law enforcement, certainly as Black people, says at face value with an event that just happened, I think that's probably something I'd advise a little caution on that. That having been said, because narratives kind of congeal very quickly and then harden into concrete. And I'm sure everybody wants to be more confident. They want their fears allayed. Of course, the most important thing for the NC2A was for Georgia and Notre Dame to be battling it out down there today. I don't know that the Super Bowl shouldn't be moved. I don't know where it could be moved if it was going to be moved. But I will say this type of incident, and we see right now there's news, I guess, out of South Carolina in the last few hours that a section of I-85 has been shut down. A suspicious truck has been identified. I think we're all on edge and as we enter this year, and I don't know that the political climate is going to get better. Certainly if Patel gets in charge of the FBI, he's the one who's saying they need to downsize the FBI. It may even become harder. I would say one other thing. I thought that Alethea Duncan, the special investigator for the FBI, did a good job at the initial press conference while John Kennedy was handstanding and putting his hands on her, trying to get her off the podium so he could score a few political points. She remained rock solid. So we certainly hope that those folks in the FBI will indeed do their jobs. But I'd slow my roll on the lone actor thing. It seems too convenient too quickly for me.
Yeah. Cameron, do you agree too soon to call this a lone wolf situation?
I hear you, Dr. Carr, in terms of that. I think, and I definitely agree that in times like this, when these we're racing for the facts. We're racing for the facts right now, the FBI and all law enforcement, because they had such large events with the Sugar Bowl, with the Super Bowl coming up, Mardi Gras coming up. They need to allay the public fears there. I think the radicalization that we have already started to see of this terrorist, which he was. And the information that has been coming out, he clearly was radicalized. They said as he pledged his allegiance to ISIS over the summer. So I think there's still so much investigation that they're going to have to do to see how that happened, how a person from our military here American here was able to be radicalized and who he was in contact with. So for them to be able to jump out and just say it was a lone wolf, I think that is also some just kind of to allay some of the fears of the public. But I think this speaks even more to the diligence that we have to have, that we do not know that, as you mentioned, Candace, there is no look. There is no necessarily specific profile of what a person like this who could go off the deep end and to be able to, this was a very coordinated attack. So we do have to respect and understand that where and how this could come, and to kick off a year like this. I just hope this does not lead to a slew of terrorist attacks, or and then also the massive gun violence, the mass shootings that unfortunately have plagued this country for so many years. It just sucks that such an iconic city like New Orleans would have to endure something like this. But I think with Dr. Carr that we should have some caution on this and wait for more investigation and facts to come out.
Robert, I think one of the interesting takeaways is that we're talking about really dismantling the FBI potentially after January 20th. But it's the FBI here who was doing the work in order to make sure that we have gotten to where we are right now.
Well, I think to just kind of echo what Dr. Carr is saying, we have to not just run out here and make these broad statements and declarations without knowing all the facts. I remember I was a junior in high school in Miss Banks's AP English class, and they said that a plane accidentally crashed into one of the towers. So we wheeled in the big TV and turned it on the classroom. Then the second plane hit, and then the Pentagon plane. And then we said, oh, maybe that wasn't an accident. And so when you get out there and make these broad proclamations, I think often we find out that they may have been in error. So we should take some caution in these statements before encouraging people to go back out and start celebrating the next football game or the next festival to put money into the city's economy. Let's make sure about these things first. Let's talk about the things that we know. We know that this attack happened, but we also know this individual, quote unquote, pledged his allegiance to ISIS. So is he a lone wolf, or is he a member of ISIS? Is this somebody acting on their own accord, or are they acting at the direction of an international terrorist organization? You cannot be both a lone wolf and a member of ISIS. That's like saying that you play one-on-one basketball, but you also play for the Hawks or something. It just doesn't make sense. Also, let's take the rest of the contextual information that we have in the news. The same day, we have the Cybertruck that exploded outside of Trump Hotel and Casino in Las Vegas. We saw the largest ever raid in a Virginia farm of explosives being found. And we have a truck full of explosives in South Carolina. We also had other buildings in New Orleans being damaged on that same day. So before we kind of run out here and say this is a lone wolf attack, let's make sure that we know that for a fact before telling people to go out during the season when we have some political turmoil, where there will be this vacuum of power as we transition from one president to the other, as we are transitioning from one speaker to a majority in the other party, and also put this into the international context. Because if this individual did indeed join or pledge allegiance to the Islamic State, well, which one? There's a big swath. We can talk about ISIS. We can talk about ISIS-K in Afghanistan. We can talk about ISIL in Syria, where we just saw the Assad regime fall. We can talk about the U.S. footprint and the actions of the Israeli government, and this mass rash of assassinations we've seen throughout the fall, and that has a connection with what's going on. Additionally, we've seen these vehicle attacks taking place in the Christmas market in Paris. We've seen this happen in Berlin. We've seen this happen all around the world. So let's look at this in an international context and find out exactly what policies are playing into this before simply saying this is one lone person who went crazy, which I think is more so meant to assuage the fears of individuals and keep the wheels of the economy going than actually based on any analysis of what could have happened in the last 48 hours with regards to this individual.
And Robert, you bring up so many good points, a lot of ways to connect the dots. And we're going to do a little bit of that on the other side of the break when we talk about that Cybertruck that you mentioned out there in Las Vegas in front of the Trump International Hotel. Stick with us. We've got more of the latest headlines here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. We'll be back after a break.
Now streaming on the Black Star Network.
I was challenged by my uncle early on, before I even had a career. Like I was maybe 8 years old, and my uncle said, "What do you want to do?" And I told him I wanted to be a rapper. And he said, "Okay, well, I don't know anything about the music business, so what you should do is learn everything there is to know about the music business and I'll make sure that you have the resources to push you through. And so I went and bought books, All You Need to Know About the Music Business, Hitman. I just went and bought a bunch of books, just started reading as a 10-year-old, just reading. And so I learned, all things licensing, mechanical rights. I learned about publishing, learned about how composition is broke up into two pieces, the writer's portion and the producer's portion. But by the time I actually learned, I came back and I was ready to okay, I got it. He was going to prison. So I had all this information.
All this knowledge.
All this knowledge.
You like, well, what I'm going to do with it now?
Curl Prep Natural Hair Solutions at curlprep.com.
I'm in shock.
For curls, locks, braids, twists, and even those wigs and extensions. Women, men, and children are loving this line. Look at this video and you be the judge. People line up to see this product in action at hair shows, and when they take a seat and try it, they don't believe it's their hair. Buy the products at curlprep.com. It works on all hair types. Use code ROLAND, that's ROLAND, lowercase letters, to get a 15% discount. Parents, remove the ouch. You will love this system because you can comb the product through your child's hair with your fingers. It's all at curlprep.com. Use code ROLAND, lowercase letters, to get a 15% discount.
Hi, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Fanbase is a free-to-download, free-to-use, next-generation social media platform that allows anyone to have followers and subscribers on the same page. Fanbase was built through investment dollars from equity crowdfunding from the Jobs Act. People just like you help build Fanbase, and we're looking for more people to help build Fanbase. We are currently raising $17 million in a Regulation A crowdfund on Start Engine. We've already crossed $2.1 million, but we're looking to raise more capital from people just like you that deserve the opportunity to invest in early stage startups without having to be accredited investors. So right now, I'd like you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase right now, today. And then use Fanbase to connect with friends, grow your audience, and be you without limits.
Hey, this is Motown recording artist Kim. You are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. That boy, he always unfiltered though. I ain't never known him to be filtered. Is there another way to experience Roland Martin than to be unfiltered? Of course he's unfiltered. Would you expect anything less? Watch what happens next.
The man who rented the Cybertruck that exploded outside of the Trump International Hotel, Las Vegas on New Year's Day has been identified as U.S. Army Master Sergeant Matthew Livelsberger. The 37-year-old special operations soldier was on leave from his base in Germany. Now, although investigators are still examining DNA evidence of the person found in the truck, Las Vegas Metro Police Department Sheriff Kevin McMahill says that Livelsberger identification and his credit cards were found at the scene. The coroner's office said that the person in the truck sustained a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head, and a handgun was found at his feet. Now, 7 people suffered minor injuries when the truck was filled with fireworks-style mortars and gas canisters exploded. Investigators believe the explosion was intentional, but have yet to determine a motive. They do not think that the explosion and the New Orleans terror attack are connected. You know what, Robert, I wanted to start with you because you put so many dots on the map that could be connected. And here we have the same conversation that perhaps they are not connected. I think what's most interesting, though, is Trump's response right away that this potentially could have been illegal immigrants. I also think that it's a sign that we have a Cybertruck from Tesla in front of Trump Towers. What are your thoughts about all of this, Robert?
Well, look, I think trust in the federal government is at an all-time low, particularly when they tell us things are what they don't appear to be to our faces. Part of the reason Trump was elected, part of the reason we saw this rise of the counterculture right, is because people didn't believe the COVID information, for example. They still think that you can take ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine or whatever it is in order to treat that. So when you say that there's no connection, but you have an Elon Musk built Cybertruck and from the Trump Tower exploding, and there's an Army veteran who does it, I think people are going to have more questions than simply saying, well, that sounds like something that happens, on New Year's Day every year. I think that we're going to need our government to come clean to the American people and start rebuilding that trust so we can believe the words that they say. If you think about the last 25 years of American politics, we were lied to about 9/11. We were lied to about why we went to war in Iraq and Afghanistan. We were lied to on so many occasions. Of course, the people don't believe that when the government simply says everything's going to be all right, you can trust us. And I think we're going to need a clear and transparent investigation, and people have a right to be very concerned when you have people like Kash Patel, who's an internet conspiracy theorist, taking over the FBI. When you have Elon Musk and Vivek saying they're going to gut the federal government and essentially transition us to a digital technocracy where we'll have algorithms filling the roles that are currently being filled by human beings. I think we have a right to want to know exactly who's running the federal government when it appears that the president-elect of the United States is a wholly owned subsidiary of about 25 billionaires who are currently making policy of the United States government. And in fact, you have a cabinet and appointed officials that have a net worth of over $1 trillion making the decisions of what happens for the American people. Of course, folks are going to have questions. I think those questions are valid to ask, and the government has a responsibility to tell the truth and level with the American people.
Cameron, did it kind of strike you that this was a Tesla truck and Trump Towers?
We can't deny the symbolism. We cannot deny and put our heads in the sand of where we are politically. As is mentioned, we are about to undergo a transition of power, and we have, I think, an unprecedented unprecedented times where a private citizen, Elon Musk, and the richest man in the world currently, is about to get kind of unchecked power adjacent to and affecting our federal government, but without all the checks and balances that come with being someone appointed in the actual government. So I think this is what scares me is that Trump hasn't even taken power yet. But for such violent acts like this to happen, for the former president to immediately call this to immigrants and migrants to continue to do the fear mongering amongst the American people, it does not set a good precedent, and it does not set, I think, a good tone to start off. So this is something that we as American people, we as Black folks, definitely have to prepare for, that we can't believe everything that is coming out of his mouth. But the fact that it was a Cybertruck, the fact that it was right in front of Trump Tower in broad daylight, there's no accident there.
Dr. Carr Cameron makes a very good point in that it's not even in the role of the president yet. And here we have this already tweeting. This was, in fact, illegal immigrants. A little bit of foreshadowing of what we're going to see. I think that's kind of the big takeaway here.
I would agree with you 100%, Candace. Takeaway, this is not only a preview, it's actually a continuation of what this addled, clearly mentally unwell man has been doing for quite some time. If folks were actually fighting for democracy, as we like to hear bandied about, they would be in court now, whether they would win or lose, to say that he should not be able to take an oath of office on January the 20th. News coming out of D.C. That he's going to have another one of his Klan rallies at the Cap One Center on the 19th before coming in on the 20th, unlike the anniversary coming up in a few days of January the 6th, 2021, where his hillbilly horde stormed the Capitol and nothing happened. Joe Biden can give out medals to Benny Thompson and to Congresswoman Cheney and others. It's very nice. But sometime between now and the end of 2025, we're probably going to see Donald Trump give out medals of his own to the people who stormed the Capitol. Terrorism, the call is coming from inside the House. This is a well-worn trope in U.S. Domestic attacks. Remember Timothy McVeigh in Oklahoma City. These are military guys. And in the case of this guy, Livelsberger, these guns he purchased seem to have been purchased, according to the FBI, in the past few days. December the 30th, they say the firearms that were found in that car were purchased. And as Robert has said and walked us through very, very succinctly and clearly, you talk about Elon Musk. He's on his Twitter saying that, the takeaway from this is that his car protected people from the blast.
That's right.
And Donald Trump is out here tweeting. I thought he killed ISIS. I thought he destroyed ISIS. So you find this ISIS truck. Which is it, man? Donald Trump shouldn't be listened to for anything. This guy shouldn't even be president of the United States. He should not be able to be put back in that office. But since he is, I think in terms of buckle up, we have to buckle up and see what's coming next.
All right. As we buckle up, we will continue to follow all of these stories. Stay with us. We're going to bring you more headline news when we come back after a break.
Now streaming on the Black Star Network.
I was challenged by my uncle early on, before I even had a career. Like I was maybe 8 years old, and my uncle said, "What do you want to do?" And I told him I wanted to be a rapper. And he said, "Okay, well, I don't know anything about the music business, so what you should do is learn everything there is to know about the music business, and I'll make sure that you have the resources to push you through." And so I went and bought books, All You Need to Know About the Music Business, hit me, and I just went and bought a bunch of books, just started reading as a 10-year-old, just reading. And so I learned, all things licensing, mechanical rights. I learned about publishing, learned about how composition is broke up into two pieces, the writer's portion and the producer's portion. But by the time I actually learned, I came back and I was ready to okay, I got it. He would go into prison. So I had all this information.
All this knowledge.
All this knowledge.
You like, well, what I'm going to do with it now?
What's up, y'all? Look, Fanbase is more than a platform. It's a movement to empower creators, offering a unique opportunity for everyday people to invest in Black-owned tech, infrastructure, and help shape the future of social media. Investing in technology is essential for creating long-term wealth and influence in the digital age. The Black community must not only consume tech, we must own it.
Discover how equity crowdfunding can serve as a powerful tool for funding Black businesses, allowing entrepreneurs to raise capital directly through their community through the Jobs Act.
Curl Prep Natural Hair Solutions at curlprep.com.
I'm in shock.
For curls, locks, braids, twists, and even those wigs and extensions. Women, men, and children are loving this line. Look at this video and you be the judge. People line up to see this product in action at hair shows, and when they take a seat and try it, they don't believe it's their hair. Buy the products at curlprep.com. It works on all hair types. Use code ROLAND, that's ROLAND, lowercase letters, to get a 15% discount. Parents, remove the ouch. You will love this system because you can comb the product through your child's hair with your fingers. It's all at curlprep.com. Use code ROLAND, lowercase letters, to get a 15% discount.
I'm Russell L. Honore, Lieutenant General, United States Army, retired, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
The Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law, in collaboration with a coalition of 5 prominent civil rights organizations, is defending a private grant program aimed at reducing barriers to entry for underrepresented entrepreneurs who own full-time package delivery businesses in partnership with Amazon. The program, which offers a $10,000 stipend to eligible business owners, is currently awaiting approval. However, several plaintiffs who are white business owners claim that Amazon's diversity grant program is discriminatory. Sabrina Talukdar, senior counsel with the Lawyers Committee for Civil Rights Under Law, joins us now. Did I get your last name right, Sabrina?
You did. It's Talukdar. It's scarier than it looks, but you are perfect.
All right, Talukdar. Well, thank you so much for being with us. This is something that is not new. There have been people who have brought claims for this particular program before. Talk to me a little bit about the argument that is being made in court against this particular program.
Thank you so much for having me. And yes, this isn't the first time a claim like this has been made, but the gist of it is that plaintiffs who are white business owners are alleging that Amazon's diversity grant program is discriminatory. And under this grant, Black, Latino, and Native American business owners who have been accepted into an extremely competitive, selective program called the Delivery Service Partner Program are potentially eligible for consideration for a $10,000 stipend. However, like many other cases that bring alleged reverse discrimination cases against private equity initiatives, the plaintiffs have not applied for the DSP program, which is a prerequisite for being considered to the grant itself. These plaintiffs are saying that they're being harmed by the Amazon's diversity grant program and that they have legal standing to sue under a historic civil rights statute, which was meant to actualize the promises of the 13th Amendment and to ensure Black economic freedom at the height of the Black codes after the Civil War.
Hmm. And, when it went to court before, as you said, the applicants had they had not applied. In this case, they haven't applied either, correct?
Correct. This is a trend that we're seeing.
Yeah. So would the outcome you expect to be the same?
We are very hopeful and cautiously optimistic that the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals, which is where this case currently sits, will affirm the ruling of the Southern District of California. The Southern District of California actually dismissed the plaintiff's lawsuit for lack of legal standing, which is not having a real harm, and for failure to state a claim, which is that there's no viable legal argument. And the underlying reason is because the court said that the plaintiff's claims are just conjectural, hypothetical, and speculative, that because they are unwilling to apply for such a highly selective and competitive program that accepts only 3% of applicants, that these claims just completely lack real legal standing under Article 3.
Mm-hmm. What would be the defense legal strategy here in something like this anyway? Because you do have a group of plaintiffs that are saying, hey, we have precedent cases, the Supreme Court, we have information in terms of what cases across the country have been determining that we need to be treated equally. What is the defense in that regard?
Well, I think first that the Supreme Court ruled on a different matter in the case of SFFA, which only pertains to higher education. And the line of cases that we've recently seen are attacks against private equity initiatives in the economic world. And in that world, we have seen most cases being dismissed all across the country in federal courts of appeal based on legal standing, because most of these plaintiffs have not actually filed for the program or the application process that they are challenging. And so a lot of courts haven't even gotten to the merits of the claim because these cases are so weak that they fail basic legal procedure. And that's what I really want folks at home to remember, that these attacks are not about merit or fairness. They're fueled by fear of competition, fear of change, and fear of an equitable future, because the programs that they're attacking that they are not applying for don't take away opportunities. They just level the playing field to maximize the talent and potential of all Americans. This program, the DSP program, creates jobs. It creates an ethos of self-reliance and just makes such an impact in the community where the DSP folks are from. And to attack this really underscores that, what this case is really about is our core shared value that the American dream belongs to every American, not just the economically elite or wealthy.
Can you give us an idea about what Amazon had in mind when they started this program, and how many people have received this $10,000 grant?
The numbers are right now not available, but the program was, as you said in the beginning, it's meant to reduce structural barriers to entry for Black, Latino, and Native American entrepreneurs. And that's because there have been so many longstanding historical structural barriers for these communities to be able to start small businesses on an equal footing with white business owners. For example, Native American business owners accounted for 0.0015% of all venture capital funds in the last year. Black American and Hispanic American business owners actually also equated for less than 1% of all venture capital funds. And we're seeing even more rejection from loan investment firms and more because of structural inequities. For example, Native business owners can't use trust land as collateral. And ITINs, which is a tax ID number, cannot be used for many financial loan institutions. So a lot of people from Black, Hispanic, and Native American communities just don't have access to the venture capital funding, to the investment, and all of the materials and networks that go into creating a small business. But the reality is that every discouraged Black, Latino, and Native business owner represents an engine of economic growth that could have brought jobs, wealth, and so much more to the community and the country.
All right, Sabrina, I want you to hang with us until after the break. We're going to take some questions from our panelists. Stay with us here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. We'll be back after the short break.
Thank you so much.
Coming soon to the Black Star Network.
But y'all, when you're on that stage, or when you're and you're seeing 2 and 3 or 4 generations in the audience, that's got to speak to you about the power of what y'all have become.
Oh, most definitely. I think we were doing our show before our break, and remember, I was watching this kid. I could not take my eyes off him because he was about 9 or so. He was sitting in the front row with his
over on the right hand side. Yes.
I was amazed that this kid knew everything, and I was like tripping to see how many songs this kid actually knew,
and he knew them all.
And he knew them all. We had to go over there and bring him on stage and take a picture with him, at the end of the show and stuff, because it was just that amazing. It's like, this is crazy.
The music travels everywhere. Like what Philip was saying, seeing this young kid, then you hear our songs on commercials, cold commercials. Then you have the younger ones that hear our music in animation.
Curl Prep Natural Hair Solutions at curlprep.com.
I'm in shock.
For curls, locks, braids, twists, and even those wigs and extensions. Women, men, and children are loving this line. Look at this video and you be the judge. People line up to see this product in action at hair shows, and when they take a seat and try it, they don't believe it's their hair. Buy the products at curlprep.com. It works on all hair types. Use code ROLAND, that's ROLAND, lowercase letters, to get a 15% discount. Parents, remove the ouch. You will love this system because you can comb the product through your child's hair with your fingers. It's all at curlprep.com. Use code ROLAND, lowercase letters, to get a 15% discount.
Hi, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Fanbase is a free-to-download, free-to-use, next-generation social media platform that allows anyone to have followers and subscribers on the same page. Fanbase was built through investment dollars from equity crowdfunding from the Jobs Act. People just like you help build Fanbase, and we're looking for more people to help build Fanbase. We are currently raising $17 million in a Regulation A crowdfund on Start Engine. We've already crossed $2.1 million, but we're looking to raise more capital from people just like you that deserve the opportunity to invest in early stage startups without having to be accredited investors. So right now, I'd like you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase right now, today. And then use Fanbase to connect with friends, grow your audience, and be you without limits.
All right, we're back talking about this lawsuit that's trying to get rid of the Amazon Diversity Grant Program. We're going to go to our panelist, Dr. Carr. Do you have a question for Sabrina?
Thank you, Candace, and thank you, Counselor. Thank you, Mr. Libda. As we know, you know better than we do, these white nationalists have been after 1981 for decades. How concerned are you and other civil rights lawyers that the incoming administration will, in addition to not only not defending Section 1981, flip on the other side? I'm sure you know better than we do. Again, the Comcast case in 2020, the 1981 case where they kind of heightened the barrier by saying that it's not enough to prove that you might have been discriminated against, but you have to prove but for your race, you wouldn't have been discriminated against. And if they can offer some alternative explanation for why the program unfolds as it is, you can defend yourself against a 1981 claim. And my other question really has to do with standing. You walked us through standing. They have been out here in the Wild West saying, they don't even have standing. They can't prove that they were harmed. How concerned are you that cases like this might be more successful in a hostile federal administration like the Trump administration?
Well, I think to your first question on the future of Section 1981, I think that we've seen in this line of cases against private equity that has race remedial programs, we've seen Section 1981 really turned on its head. And you know better than me that Congress explicitly designed this act to further the aims of the 13th Amendment by creating a remedy for discrimination that curtailed Black Americans' ability to enter contracts and fully participate in the nation's economy. And in this case of Alexander v. Amazon, the plaintiffs have weaponized Section 1981 to eliminate a program that is meant to level the playing field for Black, Hispanic, and Native American business owners. And we've seen kind of a hodgepodge of cases about this. And we've had one case, which is known as the Fearless Fund, where Section 1981 was discussed. But the reality is, to go to your second question, is that a lot of these cases have been dismissed on standing grounds, which is just whether or not you have suffered a real legal injury that allows you to bring a case into an Article 3 court. And to the question of whether or not I'm worried about it, of course, in such a judiciary system that is, stacked with certain kinds of judges, we're of course worried about how any case will go. However, we have also seen cases like Alliance for Hippocratic Medicine versus the FDA decided at the Supreme Court based on standing grounds. And we are cautiously thinking about these issues just like you are. And we are hopeful that at least in Alexander v. Amazon, that the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals will affirm the lower court's decision and dismiss the plaintiff's lawsuit for lack of standing, as well as failure to state a claim. Because, like I said earlier, this is not just any random grant program. This is a competitive, multi-tiered, highly selective program, which is race neutral. It has race neutral requirements. And you have to be one of the top 3% of, less than 3% of all applicants that apply to this program get it. And, these programs don't take away opportunities. Nothing took away the plaintiff's opportunities to apply for this program because the Amazon Diverse Grant exists. All this program tries to do is ensure that every small business owner in America gets a fair shot at their American dream.
All right, Cameron, question for Sabrina.
Thank you, Counselor. For kind of educating us on this. I have a kind of a two-part question. One, if this is a case that is able to set some level of precedent, if it goes into the appeals court, is that something that given if there is a precedent set, or if this does go the wrong way, is that something that can be used to dismantle other grant programs? And then more specifically, we're live right now on Roland Martin Unfiltered. And while we're doing our best to inform and educate people, we're 2 years away from the next major federal election. We need to give people marching orders to not just let them know something is happening, but what can the power of the people actually be able to be directed to do to be able to fight back against this? Because it feels that if an competitive Amazon program that is race neutral is taken down, it would what stops it from smaller companies who don't have the deepest pockets, or organizations that also want to put competitive grant programs that could help minority communities fight some of these structural inequities. They may not even go put those grants up, or they may look to reclassify or take some of those grants down, and that system, and that could have sweeping effects on folks who need these funds, who need these kind of support. So I want to know how we can direct people, and if this case does go the wrong way, does it set a precedent that allows other grant programs to come?
All right, Cameron, you sound a little muffled there, but I think we got the most of the questions. Sabrina.
I think so. And I think both of those questions are actually connected, because what we've seen across the country is that these cases have been dismissed because they lack standing. And again, standing is someone hasn't suffered a legal harm, because plaintiffs are not applying for these programs and they're not harmed by a program that helps other people and levels the playing field. But the reality is that if the Ninth Circuit Court of Appeals reverses the district court's decision, it'll only exacerbate a chilling effect that already exists. Across the country, we've seen private remedial efforts go through these really terrible chilling effects where folks are really scared to have DEI programs. And these programs close the very real economic gaps that the historical legacies of slavery, segregation, and racism have created in the United States. However, what we try to tell people at nonprofits or other small businesses is that legally you have the right to exist, and legally you have the right to have certain kinds of programs under many kinds of defenses. And it really depends on the organization and what they want to do and how they want to fight. But DEI and programs that are about diversity and accessibility are not outlawed in the United States. Again, the case SFFA really pertained to affirmative actions in higher education settings only. So right now, these programs are allowed, but this onslaught of litigation has just really had terrible chilling effects that affects the private sector as well as the nonprofit community as well.
All right, Robert, last question before we go to the break.
Absolutely, and I thank you so much for sharing this information. I've worked on amicus briefs in both 1981, 1984, voting rights cases, etc., and I've seen the legal playing field change over the course of the last decade or so, as conservative groups are really invested in attacking much of what we call the civil rights movement through the court system. If you look at Stephen Miller's organization, if you look at many of the other groups that are fighting tooth and nail to reverse every bit of progress that we've made, I wanted to take things big picture and talk about what happens if we lose some of these protections on the federal level. What we talk about in kind of lawyer terms often, we can talk about it from just the average person's perspective. What happens if we lose the protections that have been accorded to us under many of these legal frameworks that are currently under attack?
Well, I think in this instance, it's helpful to talk about it from an economic perspective, because this case deals with race remedial efforts in the private equity context. And what I really want folks at home to know is that rolling back diversity initiatives harms the country as a whole. If you care about job creation and you care about strengthening the US economy, you care about DEIA initiatives. And that's because entrepreneurs of color are more likely than white employers to hire from within their communities. And the reality is that every discouraged Black, Latino, and Native American business owner represents an engine of economic growth that could bring jobs, wealth, and an ethos of self-determination to their community and country. For example, you can just look at the DSP program and former winners that we've highlighted in our amicus brief. For example, we highlighted a Black woman who has a delivery service program in Maple Grove, Minnesota. She currently employs 100 people who are mostly people of color and has a starting wage of $20.25. And these are the kinds of localized programs that promote growth that will be cut for everyday Americans. And that affects all of us because curtailing race remedial programs curtails the strength of the US economy overall. And I have two very boring statistics to share, but I think that they're pretty important. Okay. For example, the McKinsey and Company reported that if existing Black-owned businesses reach the same average revenue of white industry counterparts, we would get a 1% increase in GDP growth. That means an additional $200 billion in recurring direct revenues. And similarly, the Stanford Graduate School of Business found that if Hispanic-owned businesses could generate $1.4 trillion in additional revenue today if they were equitably funded. So the loss of civil rights protections, the weaponization of historic statutes like Section 1981, of course, impacts disproportionately communities of color, but DEI affects all of us. And that's why the core of this case is about a shared American value, that the American dream belongs to everyone. And small business owners especially deserve to be included in the American dream. And so if, you know, as you were saying, the litigation landscape has changed so dramatically in the past few years that if we care about strengthening the economy, if we care about presenting a strong economic front to the world, then keeping diversity initiatives is essential for all of us.
Well, listen, Amazon had this program for a reason. They certainly saw a need. Counselor Sabrina, I want to thank you so much for being with us and breaking down this information.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you so much for the panelists for your excellent questions.
Absolutely. This is a case that we will be following. All right. Stay with us here on Roland Martin Unfiltered, live on the Black Star Network. We'll be back after break.
Curl Prep Natural Hair Solutions at curlprep.com.
I'm in shock.
For curls, locks, braids, twists, and even those wigs and extensions. Women, men, and children are loving this line. Look at this video and you be the judge. People line up to see this product in action at hair shows, and when they take a seat and try it, they don't believe it's their hair. Buy the products at curlprep.com. It works on all hair types. Use code ROLAND, that's ROLAND, lowercase letters, to get a 15% discount. Parents, remove the ouch. You will love this system because you can comb the product through your child's hair with your fingers. It's all at curlprep.com. Use code ROLAND, lowercase letters, to get a 15% discount.
What's up, y'all? Look, Fanbase is more than a platform. It's a movement to empower creators, offering a unique opportunity for everyday people to invest in Black-owned tech, infrastructure, and help shape the future of social media. Investing in technology is essential for creating long-term wealth and influence in the digital age. The Black community must not only consume tech, we must own it.
Discover how equity crowdfunding can serve as a powerful tool for funding Black businesses, allowing entrepreneurs to raise capital directly through their community through the Jobs Act.
Now streaming on the Black Star Network.
I was challenged by my uncle early on, before I even had a career. Like, I was maybe 8 years old, and my uncle said, "What do you want to do?" And I told him I wanted to be a rapper. And he said, "Okay, well, I don't know anything about the music business, so what you should do is learn everything there is to know about the music business, and I'll make sure that you have the resources to push you through." And so I went and bought books, All You Need to Know About the Music Business, Hit Me In. I just went and bought a bunch of books, just started reading as a 10-year-old, just reading. And so I learned, all things licensing, mechanical rights. I learned about publishing, learned about how composition is broke up into two pieces, the writer's portion and the producer's portion. But by the time I actually learned, I came back and I was ready to okay, I got it. He would go into prison. So I had all this information.
All this knowledge.
All this knowledge.
You like, well, what am I going to do with it now?
This is Tamala Mann.
And this is David Mann. And you're watching Roland Martin
Unfiltered.
In 1985, Black men were tried for the 1984 murder of Catherine Fuller at 8th and 8th Watt Street in Washington, D.C. 6 of those, Cliff Turner, Charles Turner, Levy Rouse, Russell Overton, and Timothy Catlett, were wrongfully convicted of that murder and collectively spent over 250 years behind bars. 32 years later, evidence confirmed that another man, James McMillan, murdered Fuller after committing a similar assault in 1992. In both cases, McMillan brutally sodomized and beat the victims. McMillan's presence at Fuller's murder scene was not disclosed at trial. The 6 men are now applying for presidential pardons with the support of the Mid-Atlantic Innocence Project. Chris Turner, who was 19 years old, he was wrongfully convicted and incarcerated, joins us now. Chris, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, I know that these are some days where you have had to practice a lot of patience because this has already gone up to the Supreme Court. So I would imagine that this is, the end of the road if this does not happen. Tell me where you are now in terms of this pardon, in terms of how you're feeling, hearing anything about what might come down the line?
No, we're just confident that President Biden will hear our story, will do the due diligence to investigate and realize that these men wrongfully spent time in prison that they should not have, and that this is the last chance to get it right. This would be a great story line to go out, I think, to attach to the legacy. But we're just confident that he'll do it because it's the right thing to do. We've already served the time, as you spoke on, that we should not have served. It was unfortunate that some of the facts were withheld in this particular case that led to the Brady violation that ultimately went to the Supreme Court that just didn't land in our favor for various reasons or another. But we are confident and hopeful at this stage that eventually President Biden will do the due diligence and allow us to clear our names, clear our family names, and bring justice to the community that rightfully deserved it.
And you mentioned the Brady violation. That's there's a Brady rule. You have to make sure that all the evidence is turned over to both sides. In this case, we're talking about the information about this man who was at the scene at the crime. But I am wondering, with this violation, the Supreme Court, what was their reasoning for not allowing a retrial?
That's beyond my understanding and my comprehension. I still wrestle with that today. Justice Caton and the Honorable Justice Ginsburg, they thought that these men should get a retrial. Unfortunately, the majority ruled against us for various reasons or another. I think the actual spirit of Brady was designed to protect these type of things from occurring. And in this particular case, it didn't. They had their own views as to thinking that maybe it would not have swayed a jury. And I'm wrestling with that thought pattern today. The juries voted in extenuate lengths of time. They deliberated and they didn't have another alternative. And so I think if this alternative had been given to the jury, I think that the jury would have, in fact, voted not guilty against these men. And these men would have went on and lived their life and done some of the things that they have since done since their release.
Mm-hmm. You know, when we're talking about a situation where if you do get this pardon, if you are, stopped for speeding, for example, there won't be a high alert on record as to who you are, because that's what happens right now. When you go apply for a job, or when you go try to find some place to live, or when you have an innocent encounter with a police officer, all of that is escalated.
Absolutely. None of our stops are like ordinary pedestrian or traffic stop. It's automatically a high alert. As you touched on it, our housing, our job placement, all the things that we would be entitled to without this blemish on our record is being held against us. And it's unfortunate that we still have to fight 40 years later when it's clear and convincing evidence in front of everyone that the men who spent time in prison for this murder are not the ones who committed it.
And two of those who originally convicted, two of your friends, your brethren, those people who you have just an amazing connection to because of this experience, they have passed on. Yes. But you and your brother certainly have been making the rounds to make sure that your case has been heard. What has that been like for you? Because you certainly display so much grace that a lot of people wouldn't have in this process.
Well, we, at the end of the day, we always represent each other to the fullest. Kelvin Smith and Stephen Webb, unfortunately, are not with us today. And we still hold their names high. We think a pardon for us is also a pardon for them. And we just continue to fight. We hope that we don't have to wait until after we are gone to get a pardon or to get recognition. We're hoping that the pardon will take place in our lifetime, the 6 of us that are left, because we know tomorrow isn't promised to anyone. And we're just confident and we're hopeful that it'll get done. But like you say, we've been carrying it around. We've been making our rounds. We've been showing who we are. We hoping that people will read the character of the individuals that we were then and who we are today. It hasn't changed. Our convictions are still the same. We maintain our innocence for over 40 years, and we still maintain our innocence today, and we're just confident. We know we don't have a perfect system. We knew that 40 years ago, we didn't believe that innocent people went to prison. We grew up watching Perry Mason and all the different TV stories, and we didn't know in real life that's not how it's played out. Mistakes are made. You get tunnel vision and you go in the wrong direction and ignore the facts that are in front of you. And I think that's what happened in this particular case. And we are asking that justice be given to these men while they're still alive, while they still have years in front of them to go on and do some the work that they're called to do.
From what I understand, the president is certainly aware of this specific case at this time. What's the timeline in terms of when a decision could possibly come about?
There is no timeline at this particular time. It's just sitting on, it's in front of him, and we have no control of that timeline. We just confident. We just try to get as much information out to his office as we possibly can, try to get as much information and facts to the Justice Department, and hope that everyone will look at this case for what it is and see the horrible mistakes that were made, and that they'll just try to right the wrong just as soon as they possibly can. But we have no definitive timetable at this particular time. We are just hoping that people will support our petition at 8thnh.org. Excuse me, 8thNHjustice.org. You can go there and you can join our petition. And we're hoping that people are just hear those facts. You can see the story and learn about the story and help right a wrong that was greatly done here in our nation's capital.
You know, before we go to the break, we're gonna keep you for another segment, but I have one more question, and that is, I know that your grandmother, she played a very important role in kind of building you up to the person that you are and what you give back to the community. What did she do for you in terms of how you live your life today?
She is everything. She's the sole reason why my character is as strong as it is, why my determination is what it is. I just wish she could see the man that she groomed me to be, the person that she wanted me to become. I just wish she was here today to see that I'm fulfilling everything that she tried to instill in me.
Yeah, but that is beautiful. Listen, we want you to hang with us for some questions from our panelists. When we come back after the break, we are speaking to Chris Turner. Stay with us. We'll be back after the break.
Curl Prep Natural Hair Solutions at curlprep.com.
I'm in shock.
For curls, locks, braids, twists, and even those wigs and extensions. Women, men, and children are loving this line. Look at this video and you be the judge. People line up to see this product in action at hair shows, and when they take a seat and try it, they don't believe it's their hair. Buy the products at curlprep.com. It works on all hair types. Use code ROLAND, that's ROLAND, lowercase letters, to get a 15% discount. Parents, remove the ouch. You will love this system because you can comb the product through your child's hair with your fingers. It's all at curlprep.com. Use code ROLAND, lowercase letters, to get a 15% discount.
What's up, y'all? Look, Fanbase is more than a platform. It's a movement to empower creators, offering a unique opportunity for everyday people to invest in Black-owned tech, infrastructure, and help shape the future of social media. Investing in technology is essential for creating long-term wealth and influence in the digital age. The Black community must not only consume tech, we must own it.
Discover how equity crowdfunding can serve as a powerful tool for funding Black businesses, allowing entrepreneurs to raise capital directly through their community through the Jobs Act.
Now streaming on the Black Star Network.
I was challenged by my uncle early on, before I even had a career. Like, I was maybe 8 years old, and my uncle said, "What do you want to do?" And I told him I wanted to be a rapper. And he said, "Okay, well, I don't know anything about the music business, so what you should do is learn everything there is to know about the music business, and I'll make sure that you have the resources to push you through." And so I went and bought books, All You Need to Know About the Music Business, hit me, and I just went and bought a bunch of books and just started reading as a 10-year-old, just reading. And so I learned, all things licensing, mechanical rights. I learned about publishing, learned about how composition is broke up into two pieces, the writer's portion and the producer's portion. But by the time I actually learned, I came back and I was ready to okay, I got it. He was going to prison. So I had all this information.
All this knowledge.
All this knowledge.
You like, well, what am I supposed to do with it now?
Now that Roland Martin is willing to give me the blueprint, hey, Cyrus, I need to go to Tyler Perry and get another blueprint because I need some green money. The only way I can do what I'm doing, I need to make some money. So you'll see me working with Roland. Matter of fact, it's the Roland Martin and Cheryl Underwood show. Well, should it be the Cheryl Underwood show and the Roland Martin show? Well, whatever show it's going to be, it's going to be good.
And back now with my panel and Chris Turner, who's waiting for a presidential pardon from President Biden. I want to go to Dr. Carr. Question for Chris.
Do you mind mentioning a little bit your work as an educator? As a fellow educator, I feel like, and I'm sure I'm not alone, I know I'm not, in fact, that your work with Duke Ellington School of the Arts, and particularly with the Free Minds Book Club, you and your brother, but as a former chair of the board there, could you talk a little bit about the importance of your work as an educator, particularly around literacy? And I know that the Free Minds Book Initiative published a book, and I have that book, of young people who are trying to express themselves. How might you have a few words for young people out there who might find themselves caught up in a system that really has a target on their back? Could say some words about yourself as an educator and dealing with literacy?
That's a great question. I mean, I love trying to communicate to the young people. I try to get, especially our young Black males, to understand that don't get caught up. Don't go for the bait, because it's a setup from the get up, is what I always start off with. It's a setup from the get up. When you think that it's all glitter and it's gold, it really isn't. Don't go for the bait. That pipeline to prison ordeal for me is real. And I do a whole lot of mentoring. You mentioned Free Minds Book Club for returning citizens. We do a lot of build up. We do a lot of building each other up. We say, you hear that old adage that steel shop and steel, men shop and men like steel shop and steel. And so what we always try to do is we try to reinforce, we try to reiterate to every individual, where you've been, I've been there. What you're thinking, I understand. If I didn't think it, I know someone who did think, had that thought process. And this is how the best way I think that you can go about dealing with that, overcoming the obstacles. We always talk about 1 out of every 3 Black men are on parole or go to prison. And what I do is I remind them that there's 2 out of 3 that don't go. And so that you need to be that 2 out of the 3 that don't go for the bait. You're going to do well. This is your best years are in front of you. When they have down days, they be telling me all the different stories that they go through. And I tell them, guess what? You are a survivor. You have already overcame the worst thing that you done encountered in your life, and you're still here. So you are a survivor. You can get through those things. And I share that with the young men and the young women as well. And I give them a lot of real talk. I do the straightforward. I don't try to do the scared straight stuff. I try to get in their mind. I learn their language, because if you can't reach them, you can't teach them. And so I listen to the music they listen to, their artists. And then I start having the debates that they have online with them to gauge their thought pattern. And then they begin to see me as one of them. And so we begin to get it in on some personal topics, and they'll come to me with things that they may not go to others with. And so I just feel great being in that position to be able to share my story, to share my experience. Like many of my students that I encounter on a daily basis, they don't know my story. Mm-hmm. I give them bits and pieces of it, but they have no idea who Chris Turner is. They just know I'm just a cool person. I'm just a lit person, old guy that's lit, as they call it.
You got to use their lingo, Chris, right? All right. Question from Robert.
It's so great hearing from you, hearing the story and all the work that you're doing in the community. I did have this question. It was 2 months ago, basically, that we had right before the election, where we had, the president, the vice president, the Democratic Party going to Black folks around the country saying, we need you to turn out in record numbers. We need you. You're the backbone of the party. We need you so much politically. And then as soon as they lost, We're sitting here, kind of bowing and scraping for pardons and clemency while, Hunter got 10 years to do whatever he felt like, etc. What do you think we have to do to mobilize as a community to make sure that we're negotiating from a position of power on these discussions, as opposed to seemingly having to, despite everything that they said before the election, kind of go through the back door to try to get the same justice that we should be accorded as any other community is?
I just think we gotta do a better job of educating ourselves on the vote, the power of the vote. I think we have to go back and look at some of the things that took place during the civil rights era and a lot of the movements, and how a lot of those different organizations galvanized the power of their votes and their voting power to be heard, to have a seat at the table. Everyone should have their plate, and you don't want a salsa plate, you want a real plate at the table. And so in order to do that, you have to go back. There's an old saying that history repeats itself in the minds of those that don't know history. And I think if we go back and study a lot of the things around the civil rights movement and a lot of the things that led to the voting power, the voting blocks, that if we get back to those grassroots concepts, I think we'll find ourselves in a better position.
All right, Cameron.
Mr. Turner, thank you so much for sharing your story, and we are all with you as you seek that pardon. I've been a DC resident now for over 20 plus years, and I think your story, and this story is not just a cautionary tale, but something that can be used as an opportunity to teach and hopefully guide. I think some of the youth and the folks that are in the streets here in DC. What have you been doing, or what have you been doing maybe here in the district, or ways that you've seen your story and your opportunity to connect to not just the youth, but even those who may be going a little wayward? But I just think it's such an inspirational a story, and love the work that you're currently doing. But if you could talk a little bit more about anything that you may have been doing specifically here in the DC or DMV area.
Specifically, I work with the Mid-Atlantic Innocence Project, which is an organization that deal with wrongful convictions in DC, Maryland, and Virginia. I also get a chance with Free Minds Book Club. We get a chance to speak to some of the graduating police classes, the incoming cadets, and you get a chance to do some community building relationships with them. You try to instruct them to be vigilant in the community, to become a part of the community. Don't try to defend necessarily police the community without becoming a part of it. Learn who the leaders are in the community. Get to know their names. Get a lot of social contact with them, because we have to try to break down the barriers, break down the misconception, break down a lot of the old things that have plagued our communities for so long, especially with our youth. We can't just see a guy in a hoodie and automatically think that he's Trayvon Martin. The things that Trayvon Martin had to go through, we shouldn't automatically judge our Black men for wearing their hoodies or having dreads and some of the things. And what we should do is get on a personal basis with them, have dialogue, have communication. And so we try to do those things. We also, with Greater Washington Urban League, we do a back to school backpack giveaway from ages pre-K all the way up to high school level. That is some of the most moving work that you could do, to get a chance to talk to the youth, to get a chance to talk to the parents, to hear them say thank you for doing that. And I get returning citizens to help me do these things, and people have no idea how moving it is for them to come back. Because whether we understand it or not, I try to get people to understand that these men who left our community during the height of the drug epidemic, during the crack era, during the war on drugs, they're coming back. And many of them left as teenagers, as kids. And so they're coming back with a different mentality, coming back as men. A lot of them have educated themselves while they were away. And so they have a different understanding of the misconception that they play in their community, and they want to give back. They want to build their community up. The men and women who were once part of the problem now want to be the solution. And we echo those things. And so we get a chance to do a lot of that stuff. Men being released from prison. I don't know if you know my full story. When I was released from prison in 2010, I'd never had a cell phone. I'd never seen a cell phone. And so my journey took place from California. I was released from federal custody in California, Modesto, California, with $50 and a bus ticket to get back to DC. And so what we do is now we go get those people. We go get them. We pick them up at the Greyhound stations. We're going to go pick them up at the airport. We want to try to get them their first meal. We want to coach them back and re-enter into a society that is not the same society that they left. And so we love doing the work, many of us. And it's like our calling.
Yeah. Chris Turner, I want to thank you so much for being with us this evening. I mean, it's such a powerful story, and you display such grace. I hope that the right people are listening to this to make that party happen for you. Thank you again for being with us.
Thank you very much. I'm honored that you had me.
Yeah, absolutely. And we are better for it that you are here. All right, folks, stay with us. Roland Martin Unfiltered continues after the break.
Now streaming on the Black Star Network.
I was challenged by my uncle early on, before I even had a career. Like I was maybe 8 years old, and my uncle said, "What do you want to do?" And I told him I wanted to be a rapper. And he said, "Okay, well, I don't know anything about the music business, so what you should do is learn everything there is to know about the music business, and I'll make sure that you have the resources to push you through." And so I went and bought books, All You Need to Know About the Music Business, Hit Me In. I just went and bought a bunch of books and just started reading as a 10-year-old, just reading. And so I learned, all things licensing, mechanical rights. I learned about publishing, learned about how composition is broke up into two pieces, the writer's portion and the producer's portion. But by the time I actually learned, I came back and I was ready to okay, I got it. He would go into prison. So I had all this information.
All this knowledge.
All this knowledge.
He's like, well, what am I going to do with it now?
What's up, y'all? Look, Fanbase is more than a platform. It's a movement to empower creators, offering a unique opportunity for everyday people to invest in Black-owned tech, infrastructure, and help shape the future of social media. Investing in technology is essential for creating long-term wealth and influence in the digital age. The Black community must not only consume tech, we must own it.
Discover how equity crowdfunding can serve as a powerful tool for funding Black businesses, allowing entrepreneurs to raise capital directly through their community through the Jobs Act.
Curl Prep Natural Hair Solutions at curlprep.com.
I'm in shock.
For curls, locks, braids, twists, and even those wigs and extensions. Women, men, and children are loving this line. Look at this video and you be the judge. People line up to see this product in action at hair shows, and when they take a seat and try it, they don't believe it's their hair. Buy the products at curlprep.com. It works on all hair types. Use code ROLAND, that's ROLAND, lowercase letters, to get a 15% discount. Parents, remove the ouch. You will love this system because you can comb the product through your child's hair with your fingers. It's all at curlprep.com. Use code ROLAND, lowercase letters, to get a 15% discount.
I'm Russell L. Honoré, Lieutenant General, United States Army, retired, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
A racist Virginia landlord will spend years in prison for stealing the identities of his Black tenants. David L. Merriman, who owned more than 60 rental properties in Newport News and Hampton, has been sentenced to 17 years in prison for wire fraud, aggravated identity theft, and racially motivated interference with housing and employment. Merriman's properties were primarily located in low-income neighborhoods where he predominantly rented to Black tenants living in poverty. He harassed his tenants with racial slurs and engaged in fraudulent practices, including forcing them to pay security deposits repeatedly. And you know something, Dr. Carr? This is a man who was renting apartments that had no working stove, no working refrigerators. Certainly there are so many laws that he broke. This is something that it's amazing what people think they can get away with all the laws that are on the books.
No question. And he would have gotten away with it, but for the intervention of the federal government. You see the Eastern District of Virginia and Jessica Aber, as we all read, standing in the gap. How do you have a bathtub, Candace, with a hole in it? I'm trying to figure out what level of degradation do you have to have? And what struck me, and I'm sure it was the case with you all as well, Cameron and Robert, the sister, the Black woman who he not only forced her name to get these relief benefits during COVID, but then threw her out, had all her stuff thrown out, and had her car towed while she's in the hospital. So it is an egregious example, and I don't care whether you're Democrat or Republican, whatever you are, the federal apparatus should stand in the gap for folks like this, and we can only hope and force this current incoming administration to continue to stand in the gap when it's so egregious that only the most open racist could say that this shouldn't be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law.
And you know, Robert, this has a lot of tentacles, though. When you think about it, people actually rented the apartment with the hole in the bathtub and no refrigerator and no stove. I mean, we can talk about everything with minimum wage to housing conditions to the lack of housing that's available to the fact that people are just living in poverty. It is real indicative of the state of America that we live in.
You're absolutely correct. And I think we have a lot of glitz and glamour and media and social media in this country, and we forget there are still people living in abject poverty and who will take any form of shelter over their heads because of the alternative. I remember growing up, you know, having a single mother after my father passed away, who was an immigrant in this country, who didn't speak the language, who didn't have the credit score or the money, and the substandard living conditions that we put human beings into this country is a disgrace. And then we go around the world calling ourselves the civilized first world and saying, look at these people in third world huts, not doing anything about those same huts that exist here in America. And we are in very deep danger, as Dr. Carr articulated, because the incoming administration does not believe in any of the federal laws that are being used to punish this individual currently. If you're going to a Justice Department headed by what could have been Matt Gaetz and now by Pam Bondi, we're not going to see these sorts of prosecutions and investigations taking place. When we talk about votes matter and conversations around that, we have to talk about how it impacts the everyday lives of individuals. And we have a Justice Department that no longer is going to be enforcing consent decrees. You're going to see racial profiling and violence against African Americans increase. We have a Justice Department that no longer believes in racially motivated crimes and hate crimes, as we saw under Jeff Sessions. Then crimes exactly such as this will no longer go prosecuted. So we have to start taking a holistic approach of how we view our votes and how we view politics, and understand that for the next at least 2 and perhaps 4 years, we will not have these protections in place, and we need to start planning around that and figuring out how to work through the system where we've always tried to exist in, being in a nation within but without the protections of that Constitution.
Absolutely. And, you know, like Dr. Carr said, Cameron, this is something that was unnoticed until the feds actually stepped in and did what they were supposed to do. But it just, again, shows the state of the people and what the mindset that people have. And the mindset of this man, the wherewithal that he got away with this for so many years and would even attempt to do that is just egregious and mind-boggling.
It is egregious and mind-boggling, and it is kind of disturbing. I echo the sentiments of our other two panelists. We can't get glazed over by the glitz and glamour that social media and all the great things in this country to understand how many folks are that desperate, are living in poverty, are looking for housing, that the housing crisis that is affecting so many different neighborhoods, states and cities and rural areas across the country, that this obviously was the only option for so many of those residences. The alarm bells must be raised. The diligence level must be raised as we go into these next 2 to 4 years, because we need to make sure that whether it's through the civil rights divisions of the U.S. Justice Department or other folks where federal and state authorities are able to step in the gap, we've got to make sure that they are there to help prosecute and to help defend our citizens. I'm glad this person is being. This guy's being taken to the fullest extent of the law and make sure he is fully prosecuted there. And then that hopefully this also brings some relief to those residents who were defrauded who were defrauded out of their funds to be able to find better housing. But this unfortunately paints the picture of how desperate people really are in and around this country for housing.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, he's going to jail, prison, 20 years. That is justice, and that's what happens when you do what you did. All right, stay with us. We're going to be right back with our last segment of Roland Martin Unfiltered. We'll be back after
this. Now streaming on the Black Star Network.
I was challenged by my uncle early on, before I even had a career. I was maybe 8 years old, and my uncle said, "What do you want to do?" And I told him I wanted to be a rapper. And he said, "Okay, well, I don't know anything about the music business, so what you should do is learn everything there is to know about the music business, and I'll make sure that you have the resources to push you through." And so I went and bought books, All You Need to Know About the Music Business, Hit Me In. I just went and bought a bunch of books, just started reading as a 10-year-old, just reading. And so I learned, all things licensing, mechanical rights. I learned about publishing, learned about how composition is broke up into two pieces, the writer's portion and the producer's portion. But by the time I actually learned, I came back and I was ready to okay, I got it. He would go into prison. So I had all this information.
All this knowledge.
All this knowledge.
You're like, well, what am I going to do with it now?
Curl Prep Natural Hair Solutions at curlprep.com.
I'm in shock.
For curls, locks, braids, twists, and even those wigs and extensions. Women, men, and children are loving this line. Look at this video and you be the judge. People line up to see this product in action at hair shows, and when they take a seat and try it, they don't believe it's their hair. Buy the products at curlprep.com. It works on all hair types. Use code ROLAND, that's ROLAND, lowercase letters, to get a 15% discount. Parents, remove the ouch. You will love this system because you can comb the product through your child's hair with your fingers. It's all at curlprep.com. Use code ROLAND, lowercase letters, to get a 15% discount.
Hi, I'm Isaac Hayes III, founder and CEO of Fanbase. Fanbase is a free-to-download, free-to-use, next-generation social media platform that allows anyone to have followers and subscribers on the same page. Fanbase was built through investment dollars from equity crowdfunding from the Jobs Act. People just like you help build Fanbase, and we're looking for more people to help build Fanbase. We are currently raising $17 million in a Regulation 8 crowdfund on Start Engine. We've already crossed $2.1 million, but we're looking to raise more capital from people just like you that deserve the opportunity to invest in early stage startups without having to be accredited investors. So right now, I'd like you to go to startengine.com/fanbase and invest. The minimum to invest is $399. That gets you 60 shares of stock in Fanbase right now, today. And then use Fanbase to connect with friends, grow your audience, and be you without limits.
Hey, this is Motown recording artist Kim. You are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. That boy, he always unfiltered though. I ain't never known him to be filtered. Is there another way to experience Roland Martin than to be unfiltered? Of course he's unfiltered. Would you expect anything less? Watch what happens next.
Since the overturning of Roe v. Wade, doctors have seen a significant increase in requests for long-acting reversible contraceptives, which provide pregnancy prevention for 3 to 5 years. According to a study from the National Library of Medicine, when Trump won in 2016, there was a 21% spike in women seeking long-term birth control. Dr. Donna Adams-Smith, a board-certified OBGYN, has witnessed the increase in women prioritizing their reproductive health and acting quickly to secure long-term birth control options. She joins us from Augusta, Georgia, to discuss this trend. Thank you so much, Doctor, for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate us having this conversation.
Absolutely. So it's all connected, and I want people to actually understand what this acronym, as it's often referred to, LARC, long-active reversible contraceptives, actually refers to, because we're talking about IUDs and other things too.
Yes, so these are methods of contraception that is not dependent on you taking them regularly, and that they can last anywhere from 3 months to actually 10 years. Much more effective than even tubal ligation and vasectomies. And so for those individuals who are looking for a type of contraception that is reliable and not dependent on human error, it is truly the choice for contraceptive care.
Yeah, and when we talk about choice, we're talking about choice in so many ways. I think because we've been looking at this spike, we're talking about the choice that women probably believe they don't have anymore if they do get pregnant. So they're making sure that does not happen. So certainly your field is, interestingly enough, very connected with politics.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I will say that after the November 5th election, that I saw a significant spike in my own practice. So between November 5th and December 31st, I actually had approximately 40 consults for some type of long-acting reversible contraception. Many patients were very pointed in saying that they wanted that contraception placed by the end of the calendar year, but definitely no later than January 20th.
You know, I'm wondering if you can draw the connection in that people are getting these long-acting reversible contraceptives, so they're not getting pregnant for 3 to 5 years. So when we look at what's going on in politics, it really shapes the nation in terms of what it looks like, who's having children, and ultimately what we're going to look like decades from now.
Right. The concern with patients is that if they become pregnant and that pregnancy is an unsafe one, that they will have no options for management of their lives. I mean, we're really looking at a matter of life and death. And so we have patients who have health conditions that they know that a pregnancy is not conducive for at least a safe pregnancy. And they know that there is no contraception that's 100% safe. And so the concern is, or effective, we know that of the 5 million pregnancies that we had last year, 42% were unintended, and they were due to contraceptive failures. So there is a concern that if they get pregnant, that there will be no options for management for them in case that we deem the pregnancy unsafe. But another caveat to this is that the particular incoming administration has made it very clear that they intend to reverse Obamacare. And currently in Obamacare, contraception is covered at 100%. And so these are patients who have a concern that if the Affordable Care Act is overturned, they'll no longer have access to contraception. So they're attempting to get whatever contraceptive means they can have in place if that happens.
So what is it that you would tell a woman who feels compelled to get a LARC compared to maybe being on the pill? Are there dangers associated with LARC that, women are putting themselves more in because of what's going on in the world of politics? Or do they play out kind of equally the same?
I think they play out. LARCs are very safe. And in many cases, some of the cases, they have decreased hormonal exposure. But from a political standpoint, there are certain factions that consider certain LARCs like IUDs as abortifacients. So there is a concern that if a IUD can be placed, that it is a means of termination of pregnancy. And so there are some patients who have concerns that if they decide they want to use this later as a means of contraception that is quite reliable, that has decreased hormonal exposure, that option will no longer be available to them.
Mm-hmm. And in Augusta, Georgia, what's your feel about how women are feeling in general about insurance that's available to them, rights that they have lost, and options that they think they have or don't have?
In Georgia, there's a significant concern because we have essentially a number of maternal health care deserts. 81 of our counties, do not have maternal access. So there are women who are afraid to get pregnant in Georgia because they can't find providers to take care of them in a meaningful manner. We had 2 very high profile cases of women who became pregnant, who knew that pregnancy was not safe for them, and they attempted to have some type of bodily autonomy in order to terminate those pregnancies and ended up dying as a result of those pregnancies. And our entire maternal mortality review team was actually disbanded behind those particular deaths because it was felt that they leaked that information to ProRepublica. So in general, women in Georgia feel that not only are our reproductive rights hampered, that we are actually limited from letting the world know about it.
Well, listen, Dr. Donna Adams-Smith, I want to thank you so much for being with us today and really shedding light on what's top of mind for so many women and men in this country.
Thank you. It's Dr. Donna Adams-Pickett.
Thank you for adding that. I want to get it right. Dr. Adams-Pickett. Good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. I also want to thank our panel on this evening, Dr. Greg Carr, Robert Patillo, and Cameron C. Trimble. As always, good to see you and have your viewpoints. Very important, as always. Good time with you. All right, and I'm Candace Kelly. I will be back tomorrow with more headlining news, filling in for Roland Martin Unfiltered, here live on the Black Star Network. Have a good night.
Folks, Black Star Network is
no punches. I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland. Stay black. I love y'all. All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?